Hi, my name is Jordan Hetrick, and in this video, I'm going to show you some of my tips on how to create a day-to-night time-lapse using your GoPro camera. A day-to-night time-lapse is where you start recording your time-lapse during bright daylight, and you continue recording all the way into the night. Using the settings I show you in this video, your camera will automatically adjust for the changing lighting conditions, allowing you to capture both vibrant daylight photos and longer exposure night photos to bring out the night light. These photos can then be combined into a video to create an amazing day-to-night time-lapse that's a great addition for an intro, outro, or transition in any of your videos. Because a day-to-night time-lapse does require a lot of recording time, it's a great technique to use when you're out camping, or you're staying in a scenic hotel, or even if you have a nice view from your own yard. Because you're going to be setting up your camera and recording for a long period of time, you want to make sure you choose your scene wisely. Choose somewhere that's got nice scenery, but you can also see a view of the sky so that as you go into night, you can see the stars come out. Take a good look at the scene around you and imagine what's going to happen with the lighting at night. Look for street lights and see how car lights will affect your shot so that you don't record half of a day lapse and then it goes into night and all of a sudden some light that you didn't expect ruins your shot. You also want to make sure that you choose a scene that has some light to it. If you choose a completely dark scene, your camera's going to have a hard time picking it up because the shutter time doesn't go that long. It's best to choose a night with a full moon or a partially full moon so that will provide some light on the landscape as you go into night. Last of all, make sure you can leave your camera in the spot for an extended period of time without tide changing, for example, or the wind blowing it over. Just want to make sure your camera is nice and secure so that the time lapse can continue from day all the way into the night. Selecting your settings is pretty straightforward for shooting your day-to-night lapse, but I'm going to show you why I'm choosing the settings that I'm choosing. I'm using the HERO7 Black here, but this also works with the HERO6 Black and HERO5 Black. Just the navigation will be a little different, but you can select the same settings that I'm going to show you here. So just make sure you're in time-lapse mode. You can swipe over to time-lapse mode. And in the capture modes, you want to make sure that you're in the bottom one here, which is night-lapse photo mode. Night-lapse photo mode allows you to use an open shutter so that your shots will have enough time to absorb the light from the low light settings at night. And then in the settings in night lapse photo, I'm going to show you which ones to choose here. I'll also show a screen with these settings that you can copy. For shutter, select auto. That's going to allow the shutter to change as you go from daylight into night. That's going to be a quick shutter for the bright light during day. And as you get into night, it'll change into a longer shutter time of up to 10 seconds, as long as you have the interval I recommend here. And that 10-second shutter is going to allow that low light to absorb onto your light sensor and create the images you're going to use for your night lapse. Take a look at these examples of how the shutter time changes from the daylight photos into the night photos. And you can see how the auto shutter is working to create these day to night lapse photos. Under interval, make sure you select at least 15 seconds so that your camera has enough time in between shots to keep that shutter open for 10 seconds. If you select a slower interval, it's going to not give your camera enough time and it'll be a slower shutter speed, and you won't get those night shots that you need. You can also select auto as far as the interval, and it'll adjust as the shutter speed gets longer when you go into night, but it's going to make a longer time lapse during the day because it doesn't need as much time for each shot. I prefer to set an exact time, and then your time lapse is evenly spaced out as you go into the night. For field of view, you can select wide or linear, but if you select linear, which is going to straighten the horizon out, you won't be able to take raw photos. So if you plan to batch process your photos, then use wide field of view. Otherwise you can use linear, and it's still going to make a 4K video. And turn ProTune on, and under ProTune, just make sure the white balance is set to auto. That's going to allow your camera to adjust as the lighting changes. Select the ISO minimum to 100 so you can get the highest quality photos during bright daylight, and the ISO max to 800 so that your camera sensor is sensitive enough at night to make the light photos that you need. If your battery's full, you can record for about 2.5 hours with these settings. For longer time lapses, I suggest removing the battery from the camera, removing the side door and connecting to a portable power pack. And depending on the portable power pack, it should give you enough power to get you through the night for a nice long day to night time lapse, and maybe back into day even, depending where you're at. If you're filming into the sun and you know that for sure it's not going to rain, you can also remove this front lens cover and that'll just open up your lens, so it's less chance of this lens cover creating any sunspots or weird glare from the sun as it goes down. The lens cover can just be removed by pulling, twisting, and popping it off. You also want to mount your camera on a tripod or another GoPro mount that will keep your camera stationary so it's not moving. Your camera needs to stay still, especially as you go into night and the shutter time gets longer. Any movement will create blurred photos. So you just want to make sure your camera is set up in a solid position. Just so you have a little better understanding, this day to night time lapse I started filming around 2:30 in the afternoon. The sun set around 5:45 and I continued filming until about 8 p.m. That spaced out the daylight, sunset light, and night light pretty evenly. Now that you know how to choose your settings and set up your camera, you can go out and record your day to night lapse or night to day lapse. And then you can come back and we'll go into the editing. The first step to editing your day to night time lapse is just to import the photos that you took. Because you're using night lapse photo mode, your camera's taking a series of photos which we're then going to compile into a video to get the movement and get that day to night time lapse. Using a desktop computer, you can use Quick for Desktop to import the photos. Just connect your camera to your computer using a USB cable and turn it on, or insert the micro SD card into your computer's slot, and Quick for Desktop should prompt you to import your files. And it'll import them and save them all as one file, and it'll actually play it back as a video. So it'll automatically compile the photos for you, but it will save them as separate photo files if you decide you want to batch process the photos later. There are a couple of options for compiling your photos into a day to night time lapse. The first one is the quickest and easiest, and it's just to create a clip in Quick for Desktop. That'll allow you to export your photos as a video time lapse. It does lack a little bit of the setting control, and you're not going to get as fine-tuned of editing as you would as if you batch process it like I'm going to show you next. When you export the video clip, you can either have it export as a widescreen video, but you don't have the option to select the cropping. It'll just be a center crop. Or you can select custom and export it as a 4K 4:3 video, and then you can conform it or crop it to widescreen in your video editor. If you want to edit your videos on your phone or tablet, you can also just export this video clip, save it to your phone, and then edit it using Quick on your phone or Premiere Rush or another phone editing app. The second option, which is a bit more work intensive, is to actually edit the photos first in a photo editor such as Lightroom. If you turn on the option to take raw photos, this is where you really get the extra benefit of those photos. Export the files and then import them as a sequence into your video editor. I use Premiere Pro to edit my videos, and when you're importing the files, as long as the file names are in sequence and you click under Options, Image Sequence, it'll automatically compile them into a time lapse. You can then make more adjustments and mix it with other clips and create your videos. Once you have the time lapse clip in your video editor, you can add keyframes to create a little bit of movement. I've got another tutorial showing how to use keyframes in GoPro Studio, but you can also apply that to other video editing programs. Then you can make any final adjustments you'd like to make to your video and combine it with the other clips, and you've got yourself a nice day to night time lapse mixed in your other videos. Remember to bring a flashlight with you. When you're setting up your camera during daylight, it's easy to find, but as it gets really dark, sometimes it can be hard to locate where your camera is located. So a flashlight will help you find it. Recording in a vertical orientation works really well for day to night time lapses, especially if you're exporting to a 1080p video. You can use keyframes to really create a lot of movement from the bottom of the frame all the way to the top of the frame as your day to night lapse plays. Since the maximum open shutter time on your camera is 10 seconds, on really dark nights you might want to put the extra effort into it to manually adjust it. You can connect to your camera using the GoPro app while it's recording, and then you can set the exposure time to 20 or 30 seconds so you can take in more light to try to get the most of that night sky. It's not a must do, but for those really dark nights, it'll definitely make a big difference to have that longer shutter time. Since you're using a longer interval, such as 15 or 20 seconds, it's going to take more time to create a time-lapse video. Just remember to keep recording and record deeper into the night so that that night scene will be long enough to make a really interesting video. And if you put your time into it, it'll really stand out and really look amazing. This is just one of the tips from my How to Use the GoPro HERO7 Black book. If you really want to get the most out of your camera, check out my book for your camera. It's full of information and creative ideas of what you can do with your GoPro, and it covers everything you need to know. Thanks so much for watching. I'll put links in the description below so you can buy the book through those, and have fun filming. Until next time.